The question that everyone is asking is, what kind of party is Reform trying to be? And it's very difficult to establish this because Nigel Farage seems to have, well, no doctrine. He has no particular, not even ideology. I mean, an ideology is a useful thing if you're a political party because it informs what you authentically believe and what you will do when you gain power. And it also prescribes to you the boundaries of what is, friend and enemy, yes and no. And Nigel has nothing of this sort.
Well, I kind of get the impression that he's kind of taken weak old Thatcherite policy, rewarmed it in the microwave, and it's not quite as good as it should be, but he's making do with that. But that's about as far as I can get with his political ideology.
That's as far as anyone can get. Because it seems that Nigel, obviously he's a free marketeer, I guess, but he never talks about it, really.
He makes overtures in that direction.
He's kind of an Essex man, I suppose.
Yeah.
But it's hard to say. And this puts him in... in one way, it's advantageous, because he can morph into whatever he needs to be for whatever given audience that he's talking to. But in another way, it's a series of weaknesses, because it doesn't give you an affirmative position to strike from. So it doesn't give you something consistent and intellectual that people can actually dive into. It doesn't underpin your movement with a philosophy, and so it's hard to see why people would be
But has he
committed.
even been trying to do it? Because I think his approach has been, I want to sell you myself.
Yep.
Do you like me? If you do, then vote for me.
Yes.
But he's not saying, let's sign up to a set of ideals like you're talking about.
But this is why Rupert Lowe's critique that, well, it's still kind of a protest party, right? It doesn't really have an agenda and a policy. It is, we are not them, therefore vote for us. And that seems to be all Nigel Farage is coasting on at this point. But anyway, so if you want to learn anything about philosophy and where we ought to go as a country, go and get Islander. It's only on sale for, I think, a week, but I don't even know if the stocks will last that long. So get it while you still can, because once it's gone forever. We're not reprinting them or anything. And trust me, it's worth your time. It's amazing. We haven't had a single bad review of the contents of the magazine. It's just
beautifully designed.
Yeah, but it's the articles are just superb, and they're you'll really enjoy them. Anyway, so Nigel Farage did a press conference, if I could get to it, which I can't. He did a press conference yesterday, announcing 29 defections from other parties. I just want to see if you can get the there we go. There's the arrangement. So you can see there's the speaker and a bunch of chairs behind them that are filled by various defectors. Like this is some sort of sixth form conference or something. Like it looks like in school. Here's the members who are being, here are the people who got awards at school or something. Very peculiar.
So defectors from other parties.
Yes. Now there's something to say about defectors from other parties. It's never really good to have a turncoat, right? If they've defected to you, well, what's stopping them defecting somewhere else?
Yes.
Right. This is the. I mean, like Genghis Khan wasn't having defectors, right? Unironically, Alexander the Great didn't have defectors. So Darius the Third, Alexander's chasing him across Persia after crushing him in battles,
yes.
And Bessus, one of his closest lieutenants, betrays him, and goes to give him to Alexander. And Alexander's like, "Oh, no, I'm not having that. We're going to kill Bessus now, then instead." Right, because he killed Darius. Genghis Khan did the same thing with various enemies of his. You don't want a turncoat. Like when Caesar's chasing Pompey the Great across the Mediterranean, and he goes to Egypt, and the Egyptians cut off Pompey's head and give him Caesar. Caesar has them crucified. Like, no, you don't have turncoats, because turncoats are not trustworthy. They're the people around your enemy and the people closest to him that you're supposed to be able to trust. And if they betray him, they'll betray you just as quickly. They have no loyalty to you. What they are is afraid of you. And so that's why...
Yes, better to make terms.
Exactly.
Yes.
As far as they're concerned, it's just like, well, this is where the power is. Rather than, being loyal and standing on a point of principle or something like that. No, so a turncoat is never a good thing, right? So I'm not saying you can't take turncoats. I'm not saying that there aren't people who are genuine or anything like that.
But
But
I mean, there's still a process. You can still be in one party. You can leave it.
Sure.
You can then return to the political fray another time, having evolved your politics. That's fine.
Exactly. It's not
in situ. Yeah.
Yeah. It's not that there's. It's a hard line. It's always bad to move from one party to another. But it's always a bit suspicious, and it's always a bit. It comes with an air of untrustworthiness. And so Nigel Farage saying, "Well, look at all these turncoats I have." It's like,
well, are they all just Tory turncoats or?
No, but we'll get into it. So anyway,
okay.
It's introduced by Zia Youssef, who
oh, good.
no, which you would expect it as the party chairman. Yeah, he's second in command of the party, and he announces Nigel Farage as the next prime minister, which has got very much shades of Hillary Clinton's. Congratulate this next president. It's like, don't count your chickens before they've hatched, because things aren't exactly going great in all respects. And of course, Nigel Farage comes out and calls everyone a racist, for being critical of Zia Youssef, even though there seem to be many valid criticisms of Zia Youssef. I personally haven't made that many criticisms of Zia Youssef, actually, because Nigel has chosen him for a reason.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I don't know anything about him.
Well, there is that.
Because he appeared out of nowhere, inorganically.
Yep. Bought his way into
and even if he is everything that they all say is, but whose judgment is faulty there? Well, the guy who said, that's the man I want.
Exactly. Richard Tice has many problems, but his problems aren't he is a Machiavellian who will purge all of Nigel Farage's closest supporters, right? Richard Tice's problems are he's morally weak and he's a bit of a boomer, right?
Yes.
But he's not evil, and he's not like someone I don't trust. I know what Richard Tice is like, and I actually don't even mind Richard Tice, to be honest. And I'm I'm starting to feel a bit sorry for him for being sidelined. Like, Reform was his party; he kept it alive.
Oh, I'm sure he'd make a perfectly serviceable bank manager.
Sure, or backbench MP even. It's totally fine.
Yeah.
Rupert Tice doesn't give off sinister vibes.
No, not at all. No.
But I think a lot of people are getting sinister vibes out of Zia Youssef, especially the way Zia can just drop the hammer on, like Gwaine Towler being sacked. Gwaine Towler's been with Nigel Farage for 30 years, right? Never a more loyal friend, and he's still now doing the media beat for free, defending Nigel Farage, right? That I think is genuinely admirable. And I feel honestly, I've met Gwaine a bunch of times. He's a really nice guy. I feel genuinely bad for what Zia did to him, which is fire him. There was no need for that. Now they've replaced him with, some guy who's got scandals. He said some crazy stuff and it doesn't matter. We're just going to ignore that. But Gwaine has never done anything like that. He's been nothing but Farage's most loyal soldier. And it's just like, I don't understand how Nigel can accept that. But okay, here we go. Here we are. And so anyway, in this, Nigel gives a speech. He says, look, we need some old lags. We need some people who have been in council and know what they're doing. It's like, Nigel, you had dozens and dozens of them. You had dozens, right? All from you. UKIP had hundreds of councillors, probably thousands of councillors, actually. Dozens of MEPs over the years. A couple of MPs.
But he gave them the whole deplorable treatment as well.
Exactly. An MP in Douglas Carswell, You had lots of old lags, and if you were able to build a coalition of people who liked and trusted and respected, you would have no problem finding manpower, right? You wouldn't have to recruit from the enemy's ranks, but here he is, and he's got no choice. Anyway, so a bunch of the journalists were asking, I don't know why that's not on there, but anyway, a bunch of the journalists were asking, well, will Rupert Lowe come back? And the answer was no, right? Farage said, of course, we'll wait and see what the results of the investigation are. But the investigation isn't... Rupert Lowe isn't under investigation.
Yes.
Right. So the two women who are making... I mean, the only allegation is from Zia Youssef, and that seems to have gone very quiet. Zia's not prosecuting this case in public, right? He's not saying, well, Rupert Lowe did this to me and therefore we've put it... nothing's being said about that. What's being said is everyone's being racist to Zia, so I'm not going to throw him under the bus, right? That's the indication. He's not going to throw him under the bus. The two women's allegations against Rupert Lowe's office, not Rupert Lowe himself, have come out in defence of Rupert Lowe. It's not going anywhere. There's nothing to do. So...
it's quite transparent.
Let's wait and see. Obviously, this is not happening, right? So don't worry about that. Moving on then, who has Nigel Farage brought into the party? Now, he's brought in a bunch of Conservatives because in one of these interviews, he said, well, the Conservatives aren't doing what I think they ought to do, and therefore they need to be replaced. And it's like, right, so Nigel consciously sees himself as a replacement for the Conservative Party.
Yes.
Okay, perfectly. I mean, it's his choice. It's not one. Don't get me wrong. The Conservative Party does need replacing, just not with an exact copy of the Conservative Party. Right?
Yeah, I mean, I certainly looked at this originally as I was hoping for a genuine right-wing party. I was not looking for copy and paste Conservatives.
Yeah, everyone.
Delete the old one.
Yeah, everyone was.
Yeah.
But no, Nigel. And the thing is, there's been a bit of Schadenfreude on the part of people who have been like, no, Nigel Farage is bad, and we all knew that he had the potential to go this direction. Right? Nigel Farage isn't like super based, but it could have had the potential to go the other way. And I guess like Schrodinger's Farage, we've opened the box and now we see that the based Farage is dead and we've got the cucked Farage, unfortunately.
Yes.
But the thing is, like him taking Conservative councillors, this is fairly straightforward, and what you would expect is another Conservative councillor, and it's not intrinsically bad.
Well, cause there are plenty of Conservatives who want a genuine right-wing party.
Yeah, exactly. There are plenty of Conservatives who want a genuinely right-wing party. So a Conservative turncoat to a more Conservative party is actually that's fine.
I'm not going to give them a hard time over that.
No, exactly. You don't. That's fine. That's what you would expect, in fact. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? But then you get the first Liberal Democrat, and it's like, okay, right. I can see the argument here for why a Liberal Democrat would want to join Reform. Now, this is Mr. Brexit. The Liberal Democrats were leading the charge to rejoin the European Union and overturn Brexit. But, okay, if you accept that issue's done, Liberal Democrats, the voters and their membership, don't hate Britain. Right? They're not the Labour Party.
Yes, that's true.
They actually, they're sort of, the sort of upper middle class strata who are doing quite well out of Britain, even as it crumbles. And this is why in like the Southwest, the Liberal Democrats have got a stronghold, because we've had less immigration than, say, the Midlands, and we don't have as much exposure to the problems that multiculturalism
Give them their credit. They were also very sensible over COVID.
They were very sensible over COVID, and they're not, like I said, they're not people who hate Britain. What they are is just remote. And so the closer the machetes get to their nice leafy suburbs, the more Lib Dems were like, actually, maybe we need, maybe Farage has got a point on some of this, right? So
fair enough.
I can even see Lib Dems coming over. I mean, this is a guy called Councillor Reg Kane, who says
he does look like a Reg.
Yeah, he joined Reform because he believes it's the only mainstream party at this time that is genuinely listening to the concerns and needs of the British people. So again, they're not anti-patriotic. What they are is kind of up their own rear ends. But that's fine. I can accept a Lib Dem.
Fair enough. Okay.
Even in the most sort of extremity of it. Yeah. But then it gets really weird. So he took this lady called Mandy Clare, who, as he says, a former Labour councillor, which is a sus thing to be in any case, who left the party to campaign against transgender ideology. Right. So she's a TERF. But one thing to remember is that these people were as radically left-wing as any other leftist. They just got to the point where it's like, oh, right, so I as a woman have to give up my spaces away from men in order to be properly left-wing. Well, therefore, I enjoyed all of the left-wing deconstruction right up until this point that now I have to sacrifice something. Yes, women should be in men's spaces. Yes, women should have this. Yes, women should have women's only shortlists. Yes, men should, not have men's only clubs. Yes. Oh, not now. Yeah. And so, unsurprisingly, like she's been in every communist party in Britain.
Right.
Since being elected in 2019, she's represented the Labour Party, the Socialist Labour Party, the Winsford Salt of the Earth, and then the Party of Women. I think she was also in the Workers' Party at one point as well. So George Galloway.
And she's now in Reform.
And now she's in Reform.
And to the point where Nigel Farage wanted to put his arm around her on a stage with the press.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I mean...
Yes.
Just saying... I'm not saying
it's not a good look.
I'm not saying she can't have become conservative or right wing or something like that.
Doesn't seem likely.
I do find it unlikely.
I mean, of course, Claire Fox, joined the Brexit Party, but at least the Brexit Party was a single issue. It was because the old-fashioned socialists were actually quite sensible on not liking Europe as well.
Yes.
They wanted. They said, okay, we should be sovereign within Britain. We should just do mad communist shit when we're sovereign in Britain. So I don't have an issue with somebody like Claire Fox joining the Brexit Party.
Well, the old socialists, and Corbyn was among them, hated the European Union because it's obviously a giant corporatist neoliberal protection racket, right?
Yeah, ruled by merchants.
Exactly, 100%. And yeah, they hate this. Fair enough. They want the complete opposite of what we want, but at least they understood that this was an enemy to the way things could.
But reform is not supposed to be a single issue thing. It's supposed to be a genuine right-wing party, and that's a bit incompatible with having a socialist workers' party former member.
That's certainly how Nigel Farage branded it. You remember his Breaking Point poster where he's got the line of angry young men from the Middle East walking through Europe, and he's like, this is coming. We need to get out of the European Union so this can't arrive here. So it's not like Nigel Farage. And when Nigel Farage came back to campaign in Clacton, he said, I'm going to turn this into a referendum on immigration. This is going to be a single issue election on immigration. Very hard on it. And now he seems to be getting a lot softer on this, right? So interesting that he's managed to get what I would guess is a literal communist.
Right, okay.
Or at least a socialist. Into reform. So good. That's.
I hope it doesn't get any worse than this.
Yeah, well, it's a bit strange because then he got this Manzur Hassan chap, who's an independent on Lincoln County Council, independent Muslim MP, right? Councillor, sorry. Interesting. So he happens to be like a rabid Bangladeshi nationalist because he's an immigrant. And he doesn't seem to have integrated brilliantly. So
wait. So Nigel isn't automatically against nationalists, only English nationalists.
Yeah.
So you can be a Bangladeshi nationalist, and Nigel Farage likes that. You just can't be an English nationalist.
Yeah, as Maya's got to admit, this is only from 2023. Right, this is not exactly Ancient History Post. Him on Facebook celebrating the Victory Day at TSC Dhaka University, where I belong. A proud moment to be part of the legacy and spirit of freedom. I assume this is Bangladeshi Independence Day. Feeling incredibly lucky and patriotic with the Bangladeshi flag. It's like, right, okay. But then you've got like people. Where are the other ones? People were posting other ones. There we go. Again, this is from 2024. It's deeply distressing to witness the increasing wave of blatant disrespect to our teachers in Bangladesh. These teachers are the backbone of our society, responsible for shaping the future of our nation. This appalling behaviour must be stopped immediately. It goes against the core values of respect and honour that are fundamental to our culture, the relentless dedication to the progress of our society. Again, this was August last year. This is 6 months ago. And he's constantly our country, our this. It's his our is Bangladesh. And that's because he's only been in Britain for 15 years.
So all I want is a political party that I can vote for that talks in that way about this country.
Yes.
Why can't we have that?
That's racist.
And why isn't reform that?
That's a great question.
Why is reform that for Bangladesh?
I can only assume that Nigel Farage would consider that to be racist in this country.
Well, yes.
But it's fine for people in Bangladesh. In fact, he's willing to bring on Bangladeshi nationalists. And like I said, I don't even begrudge this guy his position on Bangladesh. No, you.
No, if you're Bangladeshi, you can be pro-Bangladesh.
Exactly. In fact, it'd be weird if you weren't.
Yeah.
The question is, why do you live in England, and why are you a councillor here? Like that's the
and why are you in reform?
Yeah, and then why are you in the purportedly the right-wing party, the far-right party, if you listen to The Guardian? Like, what sense does that make? And the answer is, of course, very little. But yeah, so, bizarre. And this meme was going around this morning, which frankly seems to summarise it. And you mentioned it earlier. There are 5.
Oh, I wondered how it got in my head. It was one of your tweets.
Yes, yeah. So apparently we've arrived at the 6th left-wing party, which is now the Reform
Party.
Party.
Brilliant.
Which is good. And there are lots of great memes going around. Idi Amin, Reform candidate. But so very weird. And you mentioned earlier that the establishment is coming in support of Farage doing all this. Well, why wouldn't it, right? Nadine Dorris, hardcore Boris partisan.
Yes.
Right? She is, and I mean hardcore. She's written an entire book directly in defense of Boris Johnson, in defense of his intervention to continue the Ukraine war, in defense of his immigration policies, in defense of everything he's done. And so she's come out and gone, well, Rupert Lowe oh, he's an evil, scary man. He needs to head towards oblivion, which is the best place for him.
I've completely lost track of how many Tory establishment types have come out to bat for Nigel Farage, and it's a teeny bit suspicious as to why.
It's because he is no different to the Conservative Party,
Yes.
and will end up. I mean, do you not remember when Zia Yusuf first came on board? People were like, well, who's the Zia Yusuf? He's like, I don't know. Maybe he's the next leader of a Reform Party. And so it's just like, well, he's no different. He wants his Kemi Badenoch leading a Reform Party because the boomers see that as being legitimate.
Validation.
Absolutely. And so that's what's going to happen with Reform, I think.
If you would like to watch the full uncut version that is also uncensored, head on over to lotuseaters.com to find out more.